Morning. What a wonderful way to start our time together today. What is today? I'm going to ask the kids first.
Advent.
Advent. And what does that mean to you? There we go. Okay, adults, your turn. It's Advent. What does that mean to you? Christmas is coming. Anticipation of Christ's birth. Anything else? For Jesus' birthday, Ruthie had something. Yeah, it's coming up. The Advent season. Actually, this is the beginning of the Christian year. I know when we look at our calendar, we're at the end of our year, but this is the first Sunday that begins the cycle of Sundays that we celebrate throughout the Christian year. Advent, the beginning, the start of the, I'll give you some other words to think about in a little bit, but this is the time for us to begin to focus a little bit differently. I know it's a busy time, and we think about all the preparations we have to make for Christmas and all the friends and food and the gatherings we'll be going to. But this Christmas season, I'm going to ask you also to focus on that Christ that will come back again. Not necessarily the baby that we celebrate, but the Christ that will return to us. So, happy Advent to you, and may Christ return to your hearts to bless you. Welcome to worship. Bulletin, there's a note that we are having, whoops, I lost my pen. I'll get it. Having a meal there Wednesday night for our continuation of our fruitful congregation meetings. Our coach is coming. She'll answer your questions. She'll give us some ideas about what to expect for our consultation meeting that will come at the end of January. We wanted to get this in before the holidays, so the 3rd is the night, supper at 5:30. And I need to know how many of you definitely are planning on coming. All leaders are expected. Let me see, how is that worded? All leaders are expected and all people are encouraged. Okay, I do need to have a count for supper. So if you haven't made up your mind yet, all you need to do is send a note to the office or give us a call and let us know that you plan to be there. Supper, and then we'll be at 5:30, and then we'll have our meeting, and it's an hour and a half. We're done at the end of an hour and a half, even if we're not done with the workshop, okay? Please come and see what is happening, what the next steps are for us. This journey is continuing for all of us. We're still doing the studies. I am going to meetings with other pastors that are involved in the Fruitful Congregation's journey. This coming week on Tuesday is our meeting in Plymouth. So come and hear, ask questions about where this is taking us.
Oh, messenger of the coming of a Savior, sometimes prophetic words are hard to believe. We are uncertain of their truth. We must wait and be patient. In honor of all the prophets, we light this candle. Will you pray with me? Dear God of the prophets, give us this day the prophetic word of hope, that in moments of despair we might look to you for comfort. We give you thanks for all the prophets, past and present. Amen.
this morning? Well, this morning, the pastor's already talked about part of it. But anyway, what season are we in? Going in. Advent. That's right. And she's already exposed to the meanings of Advent. But Advent is also a time of celebration. And if you look around the church, do you see anything different here this morning? New? The ceiling's white. Well, you know what, Nicole, you're probably one of the first people that have noticed that ceiling change colors. Yes, it was. You know, a lot of people didn't even know it was blue. You're very observant. What else?
It's more Christmassy.
Christmassy. What else do you see? The ground.
Ooh, the flags are different.
Yes, banners are different, aren't they? Yeah. What else?
There's stuff on the floor.
There's stuff on the floor, okay. What else? Anything else you see that's different? The Christmas tree, that's right. And the ornaments, oh yeah, those are pretty. What else? The angel's different. Well, I think that's the same angel that's been up there. But anyway, anything else? Okay, candles and windows. Anything? Anything else? How about up front? Up here. Up here. Look up here. That's it. There you go. What does it say on it? Prepare ye the way. So what do you think that means? Prepare for winter? Well, I just do not, but you're right. Winter's probably coming back tomorrow. But what are we preparing for?
School.
School? Tomorrow? I don't know if that's exactly what that means back there. What do you think that means back there? Hmm? Prepare for Christmas, but this,
Jesus' birthday.
yes, prepare for the coming of Jesus, right? Yes, right. That's what we're going to be preparing for, aren't we? So in the next 4 Sundays, we're going to be preparing for Christmas, aren't we? Well, this morning, I have a little something here. And as soon as I find the story, what do you know? What do you think this is going to be about? About candy canes? You're right, it is about candy canes. So what do you know about the candy cane? They're white and red, that's right. Why are they white and red? No, it's not for Santa. Well, here's the meaning of a candy cane. Many years ago, a candy maker wanted to make candy that would symbolize the true meaning of Christmas, of Jesus.
It's a J for Jesus.
That's right. The hard candy was shaped like a J to represent that of Jesus. Is our rock of all ages. The candy was made out of white to stand for the pureness of Jesus. The red represents the blood that Jesus shed to save us from our sins. So, when next time you see a candy cane, you can understand why it's red and white. Okay? Now, this morning I have an assignment for you. Now, you see how many girls we got here. Somebody will have to do Gabby's for her, because Gabby's not able to this morning. But I want you to take, now let's see how many girls we got. Okay, the girls can come up. Come on, girls. And I want you to hang them on the Christmas tree. So go up there, find a nice place to hang them.
Here we go. Here's one for you to hang and one for you to hang for Gabby. Here, take that with you. Okay. Now the boys can take theirs. On the tree. Did everybody get one? Well, except for you. Okay. Here you go. You want to go up there and hold the boys and help you if you need some help up there? All right. So now, you know what the name of the candy cane is? And you're going to remember next week why we're celebrating? Okay. All right. Each of you may have one of these. You have to ask your parents if you do.
Prophets called the day of the Lord the end of the age. And we have people who tell us all the time the world's going to end, and they pick a date, and they march, and they hold their signs, and they warn you. And we don't know, but when you think about the end of the world and that it could occur now, does it frighten you any? Do you have a little angst inside, a little anticipation, a little worry about what you should be doing? I think it brings a little bit of that kind of feeling to all of us. So I want to help you understand what Jesus is saying to his disciples and to us about the end of the age, the end of the world, and how we are supposed to be ready, what we can do to be ready. He says, indeed, this age or this world, this life, this earth as we know it, will come to an end. In other words, history is going somewhere. We're not just a bunch of random acts that will just continue on and on and on and on. God has a plan. God has a destiny for his people, all of his people who have lived here on earth and who will live here on earth beyond us. There's a plan. And there'll come a time when this earth needs to be done because God has deemed it so. But we will have signs, warnings, as long as we're looking, as long as we understand this is not a permanent thing. It's okay. I don't know how you feel about this life and death cycle that we always run up against. Some people really struggle with that. If we think about the life and death cycle as being the normal, this is what God intends. This is the plan from the beginning. If we look at the earth in the same way that this world, the circumstances, the joys, the sorrows, the troubles, all that we go through, is a natural cycle. It makes more sense, and perhaps it takes some of the fear out of those last days. He says, be careful because it will be difficult. And it will be easy for us to get distracted. Several scriptures point to the fact that there will be false religions, false teachers. And so we need to be careful. We need to know who it is we follow and what we believe. So that's our first strategy for surviving end days, whether it's our end days or the end days of the earth. Looking forward to eternity, we just need to know who it is we follow. Focus on him. Secondly, Christ says, this age will end with my return. And it won't be like my first appearance on earth. How will it be different? How will it be different? Coming in the clouds in great power. How did he appear the first time that he came to earth? A helpless infant in a little stable somewhere in a town where nobody knew them. It was very private, it was very quiet. He wasn't a king, he wasn't anyone with any kind of influence. Huge difference. When I come back, I will be coming with power. I will be coming in a public appearance. It's going to be kind of hard to miss somebody coming down out of the clouds, won't it? I will come, and that's when this earth, this age will end. Somebody said that Christ's return will be catastrophic. Now, I don't believe it's going to be catastrophic for any of us, but it may be for people who have rejected Christ. Catastrophic. And in that sense, it will not only be a huge transformation and a huge difference in their world, their life, their eternity, but it will also be catastrophic for our earth, which will no longer be like it is now. It will affect every law of nature when Christ comes. We can't quite imagine all that. I can't. How everything on earth will be affected because Christ returns to us. Signs. Signs. I would prefer to think that Christ's return would not be catastrophic, but majestic. That it would be this awe-inspiring moment when we see what we have waited for. Remember what Israel was pleading? God, come and take us out of this circumstance, this exile, this hardship. God, come take us out of this life that is so hard. We get through one thing, we recoup, and something else happens. Or maybe we don't even have time to recoup. Life is filled with ups and downs. It's not if something will happen, but when the next thing will happen. Take us out of these kinds of circumstances. And when Christ comes and says, I'm here to take you out of here, to take you away, to take you with me, that will be majestic. That is what we hope for. That is what we long for. We don't even know it some days. That's what we wait for. Christ to come and take us to where we really belong. Well, Christ says, keep your focus. Be wise in who you're following and believing. Don't guess about the date I'm coming back. He says pretty plainly, I don't even know. What makes you think you can guess the date when Christ doesn't even know? So he says, don't worry about the date. Don't try to guess it, but also don't ignore the fact that it's going to happen. Because I will come again. Finally, he says, watch. Be ready. Be on the job all the time. Remember, he told the little story about the master leaving and all the servants had assigned tasks. We're the servants. We're the disciples. We have assigned tasks. What's our task? What's our mission? Isn't that amazing how Jim gets that up there? Reads my mind. We have a task. And Scripture's telling us that we're supposed to be on task all the time. Because what? We don't know when Christ is coming back. We want to be doing our job and doing it well all the time. Do you remember these words? See if you can tell me where they're from. Christ has died. Christ has risen. Christ will come again. Where does that come from? Creeds. Also from communion liturgy. When we say the mystery of faith, Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. I encourage you to remember those three parts are factual. Christ came to this earth. Christ did die. Christ did rise. And Christ will come again. That's the same, I think, as God saying, rejoice. Rejoice. Emmanuel will come to you. I hope this Advent season opens your eyes and your hearts to the hope and the possibility that lie ahead. Because for me, this is the best phrase of our whole faith. Christ has died for us. Christ is risen in power and glory, and Christ will come again. May it be so. Amen.
You take your bulletin. Oh, and it's on the screen. Thank you. You pray with me.
Merciful God, you sent your messengers, the prophets, to preach repentance and prepare the way for our salvation. Give us grace to heed their warnings and forsake our sins, so that we may celebrate and remember the Nativity once more. May we await with joy the coming in glory of Jesus Christ, our Redeemer, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Let's stand and close with "It Came Upon a Big Night Clear," reminding us of the first time Christ came to earth. Next Sunday, Salem. If you happen to come here for the 9:45 service, there'll be a nice note on the door saying, "You have time. We're not starting till 10 at Salem. Please come." This is a special day together, a special worship time for all of us, and I know that the choir will appreciate very much your support. And now, as we await Christ's return, be watching, be looking, and be hopeful. For Christ has died, Christ is risen, and Christ will come again.